Today we're diving into something pretty amazing, an idea right at the crossroads of evolution and artificial intelligence. What if we could actually have a conversation with the process of optimization?
Just think about that for a second. I mean, instead of just kicking off an evolutionary process and hoping for the best, what if you could actually steer it? Give it a little nudge. Ask it to find a solution that not only gets the job done, but also has these other specific features that you want. It sounds a little like sci-fi, I know, but that's exactly what we're going to unpack.
And right here, this is the core difference. You see, natural evolution is incredibly powerful, obviously, but it's totally undirected, and it takes, well, millions of years. The kind of AI evolution we're talking about, it's lightning fast, and it can be precisely targeted, which just makes the whole thing unbelievably more efficient. Okay, so to really get why this new stuff is such a game changer, we have to first look at the tools we've been using so far, and more importantly, where they kind of fall short. This brings us to the limits of our traditional evolutionary algorithms. So what even are evolutionary algorithms, or EAs as you'll hear them called? Honestly, the best way to think about it is like super fast digital dog breeding. You start with this big, diverse population of possible solutions to some problem. The algorithm then tests all of them, picks the fittest ones, the best performers, and uses them to breed a new generation of solutions, hoping that their good traits get passed down. You just do this over and over and over again until hopefully you end up with a fantastic solution.
But, this process has some major drawbacks. EAs often find a solution that's, well, it's good enough, and then they just stop. They get stuck in what we call a local optimum, totally missing the best possible solution. And a huge reason for this is that they have a terrible memory. They pretty much only focus on the current population, forgetting all the valuable lessons from generations that came before. And that causes them to lose diversity and just settle on one mediocre idea way too quickly.
So the solution to these problems, it actually comes from a completely different and right now very popular corner of the AI world. This is where we get a brilliant idea from, of all places, AI art. Oh yeah, you've definitely seen their work. We're talking about the models where you type in a crazy prompt like a corgi programming in a neon-lit office, and poof, you get this amazing, detailed picture. The technology behind a lot of these is called a diffusion model. So how in the world do they work? Well, a diffusion model, or DM, learns by doing something that sounds totally backwards. It takes a perfect image and learns how to systematically destroy it, adding a little bit of noise, step by step, until it's just pure static. And it memorizes every single step of that destructive process. So then, to create a new image, it just runs the whole process in reverse. It starts with random noise, and using what it learned, it meticulously denoises it, step by step, sculpting a perfect, coherent image out of total chaos. It's just like a sculptor revealing a statue from a block of marble. And this is where we get to the main event, combining these two incredibly powerful worlds. Researchers came up with this new framework they call HADES, which is short for Heuristically Adaptive Diffusion Model Evolutionary Strategy. And this diagram just illustrates the idea so perfectly. The old way, the traditional evolutionary algorithm you see in gray, it just looks at the current population to create the next one. It's very short-sighted. But Hades, with the golden arrows, it plugs a diffusion model right into the loop. And this DM isn't just looking at the last generation, it's trained on the entire history of solutions, every single success, every failure from the very beginning. And that right there is the absolute game changer. It gives the algorithm a deep memory. So instead of just forgetting everything that happened before, the diffusion model learns all the subtle patterns and connections across the entire evolutionary history. This lets it generate way smarter, way more informed offspring for the next generation. And you can see the proof right here in the results. This was an experiment where the best solution kept changing its position. A really popular traditional algorithm, CMA, which you see in red, it just gets stuck. It finds one solution and can adapt when things change. But look at Hades in blue. Because of its deep memory and its flexible way of generating new ideas, it consistently and quickly adapts to the new environment, always finding the best new solution. It just doesn't get trapped by its own past. But wait, it gets even better. Because having a memory is one thing, right? But being able to actively guide the evolution, that's something else entirely. This is the superpower that's introduced with a system called Charles D. So Charles D takes everything from Hades and adds this extra layer called classifier-free guidance. Now, that sounds complicated, but in simple terms, it's just a really clever mathematical trick that works like a steering wheel. It literally lets you talk to the optimizer. You can now ask for solutions that don't just have high fitness. They're not just good at the main goal, but they also have other specific traits you're looking for.
Let's make this super concrete with a classic AI problem: balancing a pole on a moving cart. The main goal, the fitness, is simple. Just keep the pole from falling over for as long as you can. But with Charles D, you can add a totally separate condition. You can say, okay, yes, balance the pole, but I also want you to do it over here at this specific target location. You're guiding the behavior without ever having to change the fundamental goal itself.
To use our earlier analogy, it's kind of like telling a dog breeder you don't just want the fastest dog possible. You want a dog that is fast and has short hair, or is fast and is a certain color. You can specify these secondary, totally unrelated goals, and the algorithm will actually find solutions that nail both of them, all without you having to go in and design some complicated new reward system. It's incredibly powerful.
So this all sounds great in theory, right? But how does it actually hold up on some really tough problems? Let's take a look at how guided evolution performs when you really put it to the test. So what we're looking at here is a really complex optimization problem. Think of it like a mountain range with lots of different peaks that are all equally high. Most traditional algorithms, like that CMA one we saw before, they find one peak and they just plant their flag and stop. But look at this. Both Hades and Charles D, they find multiple optimal solutions all at the same time. This is because that diffusion model is helping maintain diversity, and it stops the algorithm from just putting all its eggs in one basket.
Now, this next one, the mountain car problem, is even more impressive. It is notoriously difficult because you only get a reward signal, any feedback at all, at the very end when the car actually reaches the flag. It's like trying to solve a maze while you're blindfolded. Most algorithms just fail completely. But with Charles D, the researchers could guide the evolution with a really simple, helpful secondary trait. They just told it, hey, for now, just try to move around a lot. And by rewarding that simple little behavior, the algorithm was able to discover the complex sequence of actions it needed to build enough momentum and finally solve the puzzle. It's incredible.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second and pull all this together. What does a breakthrough like this actually mean for the future of optimization?
Well, here's the big picture. We now have this incredibly powerful new hybrid tool that combines the relentless search power of evolutionary algorithms with a deep, flexible memory of diffusion models. And that gives us this unprecedented ability to guide optimization, to tell it not just what problem to solve, but how we'd like the solution to look and behave, even across multiple, totally unrelated goals. What this does is build a much-needed bridge between two of the biggest fields in AI today. And hey, don't just take my word for it. The researchers who developed this technology see it as a huge step forward. They describe their own work as a bridge between generative AI, DMs, and evolutionary programming, fields that way collectively advance toward more biologically plausible AI frameworks. They think this could actually lead to AI that learns and adapts in ways that are much, much closer to how life itself works.
And that leaves us with this final, really exciting question. You see, for decades, we've basically just set goals for our algorithms and then crossed our fingers. But now, we can actually start to have a real dialogue with the search process itself. So if we can now truly guide evolution, what problems that we once thought were impossible are suddenly within our grasp? What new frontiers can we finally start to explore?